Hi, welcome to this session at Edge of 2024. Today, you're going to be hearing from Mike Maziarz. That's me. I've been on the product team here at Zero Point for the last several years. Also worked directly with customers for about 5 years as well. So making it about 10 years here at Zero Point. Done pretty much everything under the sun that Zero Point allowed me to do. Likewise with my colleague here, Clint.
Yeah, yeah, I've been here for just about 14 years, and like Mike, have done a lot of different jobs. My favorite among them all was working directly with customers, and now as a product manager. So it's good to be with you today.
Well, perfect. So with that experience and kind of insight, the last several years being on the product team, we've been heavily developing and improving our reporting and insights around cookies. So today we're going to be actually talking about cookies and give you a lay of the land of exactly what they are, how they're used, and then really the main reason you're here at Edge is to hear, how can Zero Point help me in identifying cookies and resolving any cookie problems and making sure that um, my standards that I was setting on my website, as far as what cookies are being set and who's opting in and opting out, those can all be resolved and validated with Zero Point. So, and then after that, we'll have a little Q&A as well. So let's jump into it. So what are cookies? We've come up with a simple definition that we thought anybody could understand when it comes to cookies. And here's what it is. So it's small bits of text data that a website stores on your device to remember information about your visit, such as login details, user preferences, or tracking your activity on the site. So why are these things used? What's the big deal with cookies? Well, since the internet wouldn't really function without these cookies, and at the end of the day, they really just make our life as consumers or users of the web much easier and more enjoyable to use. They remember things about our choices from logging in to what we stored in our shopping cart, or maybe a certain theme that we like to use on our website. Cookies also can be used for specific tracking as well. And this is where cookies have kind of come under the pressure of legal lately with what kind of information they're tracking, and the user give consent around that tracking.
Yeah, so some of that regulation and some of that legislation looks to classify cookies or group them or put them in buckets so that we can manage them and organize them so that users know what they're getting. And so some of those, we see this on all the consent management platform banners that we see. Something like these categories, cookies that are strictly necessary, like Mike just mentioned. These are cookies that are typically required for the web and the site that you're on to function at all. What would it be like if you were going from page to page to page in a logged in state and had to log in every single time? That's effectively what you'd have to do without cookies. And other functional cookies, remember some other critical choices you make, maybe your sort order on things, or something you have in your shopping cart. Those are all usually done by cookies as well. And then the targeting cookies, those are the ones that are the one where the regulatory bodies are usually the most concerned. Those are the ones that can typically share information between websites. Now we can also look at cookie classification by consent state. Has your user, or have I as the user accepted these cookies onto my browser so I can be tracked, or have I not? That's one way. Some of the other ways is we can look at about cookie classification is how do the browsers treat cookies, right? This is one of the most important things that our web browsers do for us. Web browsers, I don't know that we all appreciate how sophisticated web browsers are these days. And one of the most important things that browsers do for us is manage our cookie consent state. And so one of the things that the browser is really good at is where did this cookie come from? And then how long does this cookie last? Is it a session? Does it last for 6 months? And then also by domain. This is one of the most critical parts of cookie management by the browser is the domain of that cookie, because that essentially restricts who, meaning which websites or which web servers can read or access information in that cookie. Hey, Mike, why wasn't I invited to the cookie party?
You didn't opt in, Clint.
So we'll talk a little bit more here in a few minutes more about cookies, or more about how each browser treats cookies. But one of the other ways that we can classify cookies is first and third party, right? We've heard for a long time that the cookies are going away. That's never been true. It's always been that third parties might be going away. And you'll see here in a few minutes that in some web browsers, third party cookies are kind of already a thing of the past. But first party cookies are the most important cookies. They're the ones that maintain state, that make the internet work, that makes our accessing websites work. And so we'll talk about that more here in a few minutes. One thing we surveyed people about was asking the question, can a first party cookie be set by a third party JavaScript? So just think about that for just a minute. Can a third party JavaScript file, say of analytics.js from the old Google Universal Analytics, can it set a first party cookie? And the answer is yes, it can, because when that JavaScript loads on the page, it becomes part of that page's context, and then can set first party cookies as part of the context of that page. It does not, the cookie party type or the cookie domain does not have to be set by the web browser, or sorry, the web server that you're accessing the page from. Okay, just a quick review here about how each of the major browsers treat cookies. Chrome, of course, has the largest market share. And all the browsers, a couple things to call out here, all the browsers fully support first-party cookies. We could not discover any kind of blocking or mistreatment or anything like that of first-party cookies, with one really important exception. We actually discovered this just recently, and I think this is a really important discovery that Mike made, that in Safari, that your first-party cookies, that Safari automatically expires those cookies every 7 days unless they're refreshed. So like if you have a login cookie and that login cookie has a duration of 30 days, if you don't refresh it once every 7 days, then Safari will expire that cookie. And then third-party cookies, Safari and Firefox pretty much block third-party cookies by default. That can be disabled. And Chrome and Edge, since they both are built on Chromium, they fully support third-party cookies. They are both really easy to disable third-party cookies. There's just a simple toggle in the settings where you can tell it to block third-party cookies, and it will. And we also don't really know yet right now what Chrome is going to do about third-party cookies. They had some proposed technologies around their privacy sandbox. The European Union has kind of said, we don't like that. And so now Google and Chrome are figuring out really what they're going to do about third-party cookies. They've added some things like partitioning and some of the other parameters, but it's going to be a while yet until we really understand how the Chromium-based browsers are going to be treating third-party cookies.
Right. So what are some of the challenges and issues that arise because of cookies? Clint just spoke kind of in depth about that first one right here, which is browser behavior, right? So not only are we tasked with tracking just, okay, if there's just one perfect state of a user, that's already challenging enough. But yet there's multiple states, right? And that's especially with browsers, where we don't have customers only using one specific browser. So we have to make sure we take into account how my website is responding on these different environments. Second, a lot of times we get what we call digital residue. This is where trackers that may have been set or maybe we didn't know were set can be continued to be loading on our website. Even though we've moved on to a new technology or we've tried to improve our security policies and eliminate things from our website, these websites are so vast, there's so many different hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, that it can be really challenging to make sure that nothing's out there that's picking up some trafficking or tracking that we didn't expect. Also, cookies are a big area of concern when it comes to security risk. So this is where attacks can come into play, and these cookies can be hijacked if they aren't set correctly, and that they have the secure protocols. Also, when it comes to data misuse, right? This is where a lot of legislation is really concerned, is where these cookies can be used, or the data that's being captured by these cookies can be sold and handed off to other parties that you didn't intend, or you're getting overwhelmed with certain ads. You're like, hey, are they listening to my conversations? It feels like sometimes that's where cookies can come into play. And then, right, a lot of the things that we're working on here at Observe Point is helping out with regulatory compliance when it comes to cookies, and with new laws coming on like GDPR, CCPA, and then we have a handful or dozens of states coming online in the U.S. as well with their own policies. Makes it even more challenging, right? How do we manage each of these standards and laws to make sure that our website is compliant? We talked about privacy a little bit as well. And then a great story here with cookie fatigue, right? This is, I don't think many consumers really understood or were aware of what a cookie was until probably the last couple of years, until the introduction of consent management platforms. And now probably most people just know a cookie as that banner that comes up that says, do I want cookies or not want cookies? And it's like, well, what kind of cookies? Digital cookies? No, I don't think I want those, but I would like real cookies. So that's kind of where we're at. But and Clint was actually just had a funny story about cookie fatigue.
Yeah, we were just driving, I think, out to dinner with my wife a few weeks ago, and as I was preparing this was on my mind, and so I just thought to ask her. I just said, "Hey, hon, what do you think about cookies on the web?" And she's like, "Oh, you mean those stupid pop-up things on every single website I go to?" And I said, "Yeah." Now she didn't say it; she said it a lot nicer than that, but that's to Mike's point here, right? Cookie fatigue is the thing. I think most of us just click the button that we see first, and so I think that what we need to be thinking about as website managers, as data analysts, as people that are involved in our privacy teams, we need to be aware and conscious of what we are tracking and the cookies that we're setting, right? Because we should assume that most of our users that visit our website are just clicking accept all and moving on. And so we need to make sure that we are doing all we can to build trust and to build that relationship.
Perfect. Thanks, Clint. So yeah, we kind of understand now what cookies are. We realize that, hey, they're essential. We have to have them. But unfortunately, with that comes lots of problems. And so that's kind of why we're here, right? Is how can Observe Point help? Unfortunately, this is where we've like I mentioned earlier, we spent a lot of development time around cookies reporting and support for the different use cases that cookies present. And so we're going to walk you through some of those today and kind of show you what you have in your tool chest and specifically pulling out the toolkit around cookies. So first, we'll jump into a report we call cookie inventory, and then the support information there like initiators, and then tag inventory as well. And then we'll talk about consent categories, which is a standard inside of Observe Point that you can set up to enforce your expectations when it comes to cookies on your website. And then making the most Observe Point and making proactive with alerts at the end. So let's take a look at cookie inventory. So cookie inventory is inside an audit, which an audit is a scan that Observe Point will go out and run on your website. And this is where you can get a holistic view of all the cookies that are set in your website and the various attributes about them, whether it's a first or a third-party cookie, are these secure cookies, do they have where they be coming from as far as initiators, where they're loading from. This is a session type cookie. All the information you can think about cookies can be found here. And so it's a really vital report when it comes to understanding what cookies are out there and then enforcing those cookies at the next level. So Clint, why don't you take us through what this report looks like and how to navigate it?
Yeah, so on all audits, we automatically collect all the cookies that we found. Now we collect cookies from all your pre-audit actions, from any on-page actions that happen, and then of course cookies that happen as the page loads. These are cookies that are loading from JavaScript. These are cookies that are loading as HTTP headers that are server-side type cookies. And so you can see here, we've got some really, really good information. This is just a scan of our own marketing website, 64 unique cookies, number of third-party and first-party cookies, number of cookies that are not secure, and then a number of cookies that have a bad same site policy. We can also see here very quickly how many different origins. This is where the cookie came from. So we can see that there's this UET VID cookie that it came through the Bing ad loader, but it happened because of a click on this page and also because of the page load as well. So a couple different interactions that were resetting that cookie. And some people aren't aware that oftentimes when a page loads or when there's other interactions happen on the page, the same cookie can be set multiple times. And essentially, the cookie just exists once on your computer, but it can be set by multiple different technologies. So one of the great things about how how we have chosen to build out our cookie inventory reporting is that all of the possible ways that that cookie could come into being, we will report on those. And so you'll see here, let me actually show you another example. There's this example here of this GCL AU cookie. You can see that there's actually two different things where this came from. They're actually both Google Tag Manager, but one looks like an interstitial step or something like that. We can probably see some others down here, a couple of different. There's this MUID cookie here from Microsoft. A couple of different technologies loaded that cookie as well. So just a couple of quick alerts that you may consider setting on this report is just the number of unique cookies, right? If that number goes up, I want to be alerted about it. Or maybe third-party cookies are the ones that are most important. So I can just quickly click this plus here. And the default is, hey, any third-party cookies above 0, or I can just customize that a logic and say, we actually know we have 25 third-party cookies and they're part of our cookies policy. We're going to accept that. That's good. There we go. And then in the notification, this is one of the things that we highly recommend in all alerts that you set up, is specifying a custom message. This is essentially, what will I do, or what will our team do if this alert is received? So take this action essentially. So that's it on cookie inventory.
Excellent. Thanks, Clint. And so with that, right, cookies are the hot topic and the most item spoken of. However, tags and the technologies that are interacting with those cookies and unloading those cookies are really the thing we should be focusing on. And really are the items that are kind of sending out that data that we're not wanting to be sent out. And so that's why when we talk about privacy and cookies, we really can't talk about it without talking about tags. And we want to focus on that as well. And so we have a tag inventory report, just like the cookie inventory report, that can show you a whole view of whatever the audit scan. So if it was your whole website or just your top pages, whatever it may be, we can tell you all the technologies and tags that are loading on that website, where they are, where they aren't, and also the different reporting buckets that they're going to. Maybe you're expecting the tags to go to just one account or your one reporting suite. But sometimes we see there's other tags that maybe aren't yours, but the same technology. And this is where this report can help you out and identify those. We can also call it the initiators, where we're loading these technologies and tags as well. And so Clint's going to walk us through those now.
All right, thanks, Mike. Yeah, and this is one of the parts where we're here at Observe Point that we think some of the regulatory compliance and some of businesses' compliance with some of that regulatory with those requirements is kind of missing or lacking just a little bit, because we seem to focus mostly on cookies. But to Mike's point, we should be focusing on the technologies on the site, because it's really the technologies that are typically setting those cookies. And then, as Mike mentioned, it's the technologies that are transferring data around the internet. And so we want to make sure that we're putting just as much care with our tag and technology tracking as well. So let's just look at a couple of examples here. Let's just say, for example, let's look at Vimeo here. Hey, we've got on a few pages on our marketing site, we've got a few embedded Vimeo videos. Is that expected? Is Vimeo part of our technology use policy, our cookies acceptance policy? If not, we may want to get those removed. So we could very easily filter on this tag. So I can say, hey, show me Vimeo loader tag. Now I need to know this tag. Let's just say our legal team, for whatever reason, decided we don't want this tag, or we don't want this cookie, we don't want anything from Vimeo on our site. So I could quickly filter by that tag, or I could even filter by that vendor, by Vimeo the vendor. So I could just say Vimeo is my vendor, and that would catch all of the Vimeo tags. So now we can quickly set an alert that says, if any pages have a Vimeo tag, send me an alert. So I can just say, we are not supposed to have any Vimeo tags on the site because of whatever reason, and let's get them removed. So we can quickly set that alert. And just back on same as on cookie inventory, you'll notice, like Mike called out, that we have the related cookie initiators, which are typically tags. And so you can see here that tag vendor Vimeo also set these two cookies. So we could set a similar alert on this if we'd like to as well. Okay, Mike, back to you.
Perfect. Yeah. And so one of the core functionalities that Clint called out in both those reports, and really in all of our reports that Observe Point offers, is the capability to provide alerting. And what this makes setting up, the governance practice a little bit more automated and kind of peace of mind running in the background, that you don't have to necessarily be checking inside your Observe Point account every day. You can have the confidence and peace of mind with alerts running in the background for you that will notify you if there are issues. So here's some common alerts that you can set up with Observe Point and that we'd recommend. So first is any cookie that's lasting longer than 13 months, right? This is best practice, especially when it comes to GDPR, to have a cookie that's not forever on someone's device, right? So we want to respect that and have good form when it comes to that. If there's new cookies that come up online that we weren't aware of or want to see a change in the count of cookies loading on our website. A big one, right, that we've kind of spoke about here is, are there any unapproved cookies or unapproved tags when it comes to that? And if there's a specific type of vendor that we don't want on our site anymore, we've made the decision, hey, this is not someone we're working with anymore. You can set up alerts around that as well, i.e. Facebook or ads, whatever it may be. Two things we'd also recommend to always have in place, right, is that you should have analytics on every page, probably a tag manager on every page, as well as a consent manager as well. So you can set up alerts around that to ensure that that's always the case and be alerted directly to whatever channel or destination could be our party that's responsible for that, with a nice little note that Clinton called out of, hey, great, here's your problem. Here's what to do about it. And so alerting is a great practice inside of Observe Point and one of our most used functionality items. And so these are just some common ones. And we have a great little starter kit if you have some questions. So feel free to reach out to your customer success manager, and they can help you get some of these set up in an automated fashion as well. So it's really quick with just a few clicks. So perfect. So we've kind of discussed this, right? We have a cookie problem. Now what? And so Clint's going to kind of walk us through. So we get this alert with the cookies, and what do we do from there?
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Mike. We talk to a lot of customers, and we see some very common practices or patterns when they're going through the remediation process, whether that be a cookie, a tag, a bad console error message, or whatever the thing might be. And there's a couple of things here that are kind of a challenge, right? So I think we've already laid the stage here of why do unapproved cookies matter. So we're going to take the example here that we've set up some consent categories in Observe Point. And we're actually, if you pay attention to Dave Smith's presentation later, he'll actually show you the OneTrust import and consent category process. If you use a different consent manager, we fully support those as well. We've just added some technology recently that makes using OneTrust super easy inside of Observe Point. So you want to make sure that you watch that presentation as well. But let's say we have a cookie that shows up on the site that is not supposed to be there. So I think we've laid out why it matters. Really it comes down to regulatory compliance, but it also comes down to building trust and maintaining trust with our users and our branding. Now, the next hardest part, and I think just as we've talked with a lot of different customers, this who cares part can be some of the hardest pieces. Earlier in Edge, Rebecca spoke about cookies, and she noted that it took her just about a little over 6 months to find all the different people in her organization who cared about cookies. There's somebody, I think, from legal. There was somebody from the privacy team. There was somebody from marketing. There was somebody from the digital analytics group. One that we would recommend adding as well is a product manager that's responsible for the website or the web technologies. That's one person I would definitely add to that group as well. But figuring out who those people are, especially if your organization is large or a lot of websites, a lot of different like geographic locations, it's going to complicate that, right? But we would recommend forming some kind of center of excellence, like Rebecca did as well, so that you have a group and then have a Slack channel, a Teams group, a dedicated email distribution list, something like that you can all be notified at the same time. But then have each person on that center of excellence have different roles. Somebody's going to be the triager, right? You get an alert that says this unapproved cookie came. What do we do about it? Well, the first thing to do is, that's Clint's job. He's going to go inside Observe Point and do some investigation and report back to the group about where this cookie came from, how it got there, what's the origin, what's its initiator, all of that information. And so that would be, say, my job, and I would report back to the team. Now, one of the things that's really powerful about Observe Point as well is, once I've done that investigation, say Vimeo, for example, we don't want these Vimeo cookies on the site. I can just quickly share that report by copying the public link here with my group, with my center of excellence, and say, here's where the cookie came from, here's where it came to be. Now, on this solving the problem part, this is also going to vary a lot from company to company, or even within, within departments. Some customers we've talked to have noted that if we see an unapproved tag or an unapproved cookie, or unauthorized, it just gets removed. We go find where it came from. It usually comes from a tag manager somewhere, and we just remove it. And we wait, and while we're figuring out who's going to have a problem with that. Other customers have told us that that technology is on the site for a reason. We note it, and then we go through our internal approval processes. And really what that looks like for your organization is going to be based on your risk tolerance, what your legal team and your security team has to say about it. Every company is going to be different. Some industries are going to be a little bit more sensitive, some are not. So it just kind of depends there. We don't have a really good answer other than you got to go figure it out, and it should be figured out. And then once you get all this figured out, whether this cookie is supposed to be there and it's supposed to be approved, you'll add that to your consent categories inside of ZerPoint, and then recheck those consent categories to make sure that now the cookie is showing as an approved cookie, or if it has been removed, right, from the site, you can reprocess your consent categories once again and note now that there's no more unapproved cookies, right? So those are some ways to verify the remediation inside of ZerPoint, and how to really work through this. I got a cookie problem, now what? And really what you want to do though is just don't be thinking about cookies, but be thinking about all of the things that relate to your website: tags, cookies, really bad JavaScript errors, all the other points of data that we can help you with. In the privacy and the cookie center of excellence, maybe there's a different center of excellence that it's just general health of the website, but really having those processes and procedures in place for you.
Well, perfect. Thanks for tuning in today and listening to us here at Edge talk about cookies. We really appreciate your time and all the feedback that we've received the last several years around this topic to get us to where we are today. And we continue to look forward to more feedback you're providing for us and making our product better. This is something we're really focused on, and making your lives easier as you try to tackle the subject. It's a challenging one, and we realize that and want to make it a great process for you. So appreciate your time, and look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you much.